Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of the Daily Huddle, this time the Business and Leadership Edition. I bet you weren't expecting to see me again. We switched gears from Thursday Spiritual Matters. Today we're doing Business and Leadership. I'm your host in standing, Dr. Monikah Ogando, and we're going to be talking about today, do you sell the way that you buy? Which would imply that you know how you buy. And I'm going to give you a quote by the inimitable Dr. Carl Jung, who once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is the privilege of being who you are." Welcome to the Daily Huddle. Welcome once again to the Daily Huddle. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to Friday. Welcome to Friday. Friday is the day of completion of the week. It is the day of the beginning of the weekend. It is a bit of a bridge, as it were. And as such, we're going to be talking about some of the ways in which you can bridge your personal and your business life in your leadership. Your leadership is the bridge to your personal and your business life. And I am so interested, as some of you know, I'm so fascinated by the human condition, the human mind, the way that we take, what makes us work. And today I want to share that curiosity with you by talking about buying personas and selling personas so that you can understand in your business and even with the people in your life, in your personal life, when you understand buying and selling personas, you know how to enroll somebody in a vision. You know how to ask them to do things in such a way that they say yes, because you understand they're listening and you can speak into it. So before we do that, I want to get grounded in the now moment. Rashida, how are you and what are you thankful for? Where's Rashida? Where is Rashida?
I could not unmute myself. Oh my goodness. Where I am right here, right now.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm grateful for, you say?
Yes.
Oh my goodness, what a question. I am grateful for life itself.
Oh, I love it.
Oh my goodness, it's so deep breath. I am so grateful to be here sharing space with you all guys.
That's a good reminder. That is a good reminder. Thank you so much. And I see that Cherie has joined us. Welcome, Cherie. Carmen, where are you and who are you going to hug today?
Wow. I'm right here, right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna hug a beautiful tree that I saw 3 days ago. And I did it in just San Nicolas Avenue, where multitude of people passing by, and the people that see me hugging and kissing the tree was laughing. And I was full of joy because I was hugging the whole planet. Thank you
funny.
for asking me.
That's awesome. I could just imagine you coming hugging the tree and people looking at you and you're like, you're just jealous. You're just jealous.
They was jealous. Yes.
That's great. What an adorable sight to see. That's awesome. All right. So I'm going to divide. I know that this is going to be reductive. Okay. So when I start talking about this stuff, I don't want you to think that I don't already know that this is a bit reductive, because it is a generalization of the ways in which we digest the world and in the ways in which we make decisions. But I want you to imagine that your brain has 4 quadrants. You have seen this in many frameworks that divide things and people and thoughts and concepts into 4 quadrants. We've seen it, for example, with productivity, right? That there's a line that says urgent or not urgent, and then another one that says important or not important. And so then you have quadrants of like urgent and important, urgent but not important, not urgent and not important, etc. Right? So we're going to divide your brain and the way that you think and make decisions and your personality in those 4 quadrants as well. But here are the quadrants that we're going to use. Okay, so if you have a piece of paper, go ahead and draw a cross on it so that you can write down those 4 quadrants. At the bottom right corner of those quadrants, I want you to write down the word support or supporter, okay? Then at the bottom left of that quadrant or that 4-piece thing, I want you to write the word analyzer, okay? Then go up 1 to the top left. So you wrote analyzer at the bottom left. I want you to go to the top left and write controller, and then go to the top right and write promoter. Now I'm going to define those for you. Hi, Peter, welcome. I'm going to define those for you so that you can see, you can start to see, all right, so this is the way that I make decisions. This is the way that I digest the world. And here's the way that I show up in the world. And you'll start to think about people that maybe you want to sell to in your business, or perhaps people that you're in a relationship with that you want to enroll them in a particular vision or a commitment, and how they digest and how they make decisions so that you can speak into their listening. So let me define them for you first. We're going to go from the top left, the controllers. Okay. The controllers are the people who are very about the facts, the bottom line, give it to me straight. I don't want no fuss, no muss, no BS. What time am I supposed to be there? What time are we leaving? Who's going to be there? They just want the facts, ma'am, right? And so sometimes the shadow side or the negative side or the part that's not so popular about controllers is that sometimes they come off as bullies. Sometimes they come off as uncaring. Sometimes they come off as not in relationship. That's why they're like directly opposite from the supporter. You see that? Because it's like the opposite of being in relationship. It's more like being with the data more so than with the person. And so somebody who, if you are in a selling environment and you are selling to someone who is a controller, you want to lead with the facts first. Here's what it is, here are the features, here's what the benefit, here's what you're going to get out of it, here's how long it's probably going to last. You even want to give them data that they may not necessarily ask for, right? Like, what are the negatives? Because as the name suggests, controllers like to be in control. And they want to know how am I not going to get in surprise about this, right? What are the contingencies? What's the negative? What are the pros and the cons so that I can make an informed, educated decision? Put a 1 in the chat if you think you're a controller. If you're not, then don't worry about it. Your turn is coming. So that's at the top left. That's the controller, right? Now we're going to move to the top right, the promoters. The promoters are like the party people. Think of the P in promoter like party people. You can get them enrolled in a vision. They're not very practical though. That's not the P for promoter. They're not very practical. They're all about the vision. And oh my God, this is amazing. And they can be completely enrolled in a possibility and not have no idea how to apply it, right? It's just like, this just sounds amazing. Well, what sounds amazing about it? It's just imagine. Imagine, that's one of the key words for promoters. Imagine what's possible. Visualize this, and can you see this, right? So they're visual sometimes and can really be committed to a future that has not yet happened, right? So when you are selling, for example, to somebody who's a promoter, you want to engage them in the vision. You want to engage them in possibility. You want to get them excited about what future pacing will look like. Imagine what you'll look like in this car. Imagine what you'll look like after you've lost this weight. Imagine what you'll look like, etc. Right? So use visual cues and your imagination to get somebody who is a promoter enrolled in whatever it is that you're selling. Okay. Now put a 2 in the chat if you think you're a promoter. Now we're going to move to the bottom. And at the bottom left, you have the analyzers. At the bottom left, the analyzers are a little bit like controllers in that they dabble in facts as opposed to people. But the analyzers are more interested in like the process. How is this going to work? What are we going to do? Right? What's step one? What's step two? Who's going to be driving? What's going to happen once we get there? Once we leave, who's going to clean up? They're just interested in the whole process and the how, not just the what. Controllers want the what. They're like, give me the data. The analyzers are a little bit more, like the name suggests, analytical, and they want the process. They want the step-by-step. So when you're selling to somebody who's an analyzer, let's say, for example, that you're a coach and you're selling something intangible like communication skills or leadership skills. One of the things that you might say to somebody who is an analyzer is, here's how this process will work. First, I'm going to send you the onboarding kit, and you're going to fill out this questionnaire so that I can learn a little bit more about you. Then you're going to return this back, and we're going to schedule your first session. Then this is going to happen, and that's going to happen, and this is going to happen, and so forth. So you're giving them the process, which allows them to see themselves walking through this experience with you. So they can get enrolled in a future, in a possibility, but it's through the process, right? That's the analyzer for you. So put a 3 in the chat if you think you're an analyzer. And then number 4 at the bottom right is the supporter. The supporter is diametrically opposed from the controller, just like the analyzer is diametrically opposed from the promoter. And the supporter is a connector, right? If you were to put a question in each one of those quadrants, the controller would be concerned with the what, the analyzer would be concerned with the how, the promoter would be concerned with the why, like the big why we're doing something, the vision, right, the mission statement, and the supporter at the bottom right would be concerned with the who's going to be there, right? If you're selling a coaching program, am I going to have one-on-one time with you? Is this going to be a group session? Who's going to be my accountability buddy? Are we going to be meeting in person? Because they want that connection. They want that, relational transformation. Those are the supporters. And they're really good connectors as well. They know people who know people. And they know, oh, you know who you should talk to? Peter, you should talk to Stan because this and the third. And they're very good about connecting who can be good with who or who can be useful to whom. Yeah. So put a 4 in the chat if you think you're a supporter. And that's on purpose, because landmark education and other transformational trainings have a particular exercise where the highest possibility of transformation, of connection, and of union in humanity is to choose number 4. And supporters are very much an advocate for that. If you know, you know. So controllers are number 1s. They would have it no other way. The analyzers would be the number 2, promoters would be 3, and supporters would be number 4. Okay, Peter says he's 2 and 4. So you're on this side. You're on the people side, not on the fact side. Okay, I love it. I love it. And Stan says that he's number 2 also.
That was a correction. I meant number 3. I'm sorry about that, because that number 3 is promoter, right?
Yes, 3 is promoter.
Right. Okay,
So
I made a mistake.
1 and 2.
Me too, Carmen. I made a mistake. I thought it was by the way that you were saying.
Oh, got it. Okay. Understood. Maybe I ordered it differently the second time around. So controllers number 1, analyzers number 2, promoter number 3, and supporter number 4. So somebody who is, if you can just imagine your brain divided into quadrants, then the ones that are at the bottom, the analyzers and the supporters, right? They're very practical. Not to say that controllers and promoters are not practical, but they're practical in a very rooted application, get down in the field type of way, because the promoter is in the field with the people and the analyzer is in the field in the process. Like, how is this going to work? This has to actually work. This has to be something that somebody can walk through, right? So there's a bit of practicality. There's a bit of like root chakra into that, lower level limbic system type of practicality in the brain and in the thinking process. Whereas controllers and promoters are higher concept thinking. So they can delay gratification, for example, because it's a future pace. And controllers are also looking at the whole, they're kind of looking at the whole process from a place of strategy, from a place of putting 2 and 2 together, right? Matching patterns, seeing the data in that way. So it's a very like thinking conceptual. That's why they're kind of opposite of supporters, because they're not thinking about it from terms of people, they're thinking about it in terms of processes. Does that make sense, everybody? Have you heard this framework before? Let me see who's seen this framework before. If you've been in any kind of transformational training, you probably have heard some of this before. But how does this translate into how you sell? Let's talk about how you translate this into how you sell. How would you know if you just met someone? How would you know if they're a controller, promoter, supporter, or an analyst? What are the cues that you would be watching for so that you know which one they are? So here are some cues. Someone who leads with, nice to meet you, Peter. I've heard so much about you. Stan talks about you all the time. Da, 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 da. When they lead, when the first thing out of their mouth is a person, this is a clue. Not a conclusion, but a clue. They might be a supporter or a promoter. Let's see. Let's keep them talking and see if they give us more clues. Okay. If they say something like, yeah, Peter, I'm going to continue to use you, Peter, as an example, because you're the one on video on my screen right now. Peter, so you wanted to talk to me about, the possibility of joining such and such company, or the possibility of going to, of creating this event. Tell me more about the event that you want to create. Why do you want to create it? Why? You heard that? She said, why do you want to create it? She wants to understand the vision. She wants to understand the mission statement. What's the big possibility that you're trying to enroll her into? So that why is another clue that this person might be a promoter. So at first she led with people and you were thinking that maybe she was a supporter, but then she put the why in there. She's like, maybe a promoter. Let's keep her talking. Let's keep her talking. And then Peter, you'll start saying something. Well, the reason why I wanted to create this event is because I think it's important that people get together so that they can really amplify their sales. They need some training to amplify their sales, et cetera, et cetera. Oh, that's awesome. Okay. When are you thinking of doing this? What date? Right? If they're asking you things like specificity is a controller thing. What date? How long is it from? Is it a multiple day event? Or is it just going to be all day on a Saturday, for example? Who's going to be there? Who are the sponsors? How are you funding this? Right? And so those kinds of like data point questions, that's a controller feature. and once again, I started off by saying that this is going to be kind of reductive, right? And the reason I said that is because it's the human condition. We are all of it. Right? So it's very easy for us to say our dominant personality trait is controller or promoter or analyzer or supporter, but you are a whole human being, right? In the human Herman brain dominance instrument, which actually does break down your brain into quadrants, it talks about this dominant energy. However, you have the whole brain. So you have access to your own controller energy, your own promoter energy. You might not lead with that, but this is the whole of who you are, and you can access them. You can move from quadrant to quadrant, depending on who's in front of you, depending on your agenda or your intention or commitment for the conversation and so forth. But I wanted to give you some distinctions in the language and in the communication and in the stance and how people make decisions so that you can understand how to speak into their listening. Yeah. Who has questions or comments, or maybe you've had an experience of like, oh, this would have been useful had I known about this 3 days ago, because I had this conversation and I didn't know, and this person sounds like a blah, blah, blah. So who has some questions or some commentary about what we just shared today? Very enlightening, says Peter. Got it. Awesome. Good stuff. It'll serve you in the future. Anybody else? Questions, comments? What do you think I am? Those of you who know me, Let's play a little game. You've known each other. We were in the community here in the Daily Huddle. We've experienced each other in some way or another. What do you think? What do you think I am? Those of you
I think you're a promoter and a supporter.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. Anybody else? Is that a consensus?
I was going to say promoter. Promoter. I think I was going to say this. I think I was going to say the same thing. Promoter and no. Yeah, I would say supporter. Promoter and supporter. I would go the same way. But I think you could be a little controller. I think you can. Yeah. I think you could be. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think I saw Cherie's hand up. Cherie, are you still there?
I'm still here.
Oh, yes. Let me hear it. What you got?
So my question is to, they have different tests to determine which one you are. Is there any test like that out there?
Yes. So one of the, in my, as some of you know, I own a leadership consulting firm, communication consulting firm. And one of the instruments that we are licensed and certified to facilitate and to teach is the Herman Brain Dominance Instrument. They use different terminology, but it's the same concept. You take a test, an assessment, as let's call it, an assessment, and they will tell you not only, let me see if I can, I might do something that I've never done before, which is share my screen. But not only do they show you what your dominance, brain dominance is in terms of this personality or tendency, but also where you go under stress. Where you go under stress. What do I mean by that? Have you ever noticed that when you are in an okay state, that you tend to be more open to relationships, or you tend to be more open to maybe you take in data a little bit better. But when you are under stress, then you're like, let's just get it done, right? There are some people that are like, let's just get it done. And they're very much about process. F everybody else, right? And so when you take an assessment like this, it shows you not only where you fall when all is well, but where you fall under stress as well. And I'm gonna see if I can show you. Screen share of what this looks like. I'm trying to find it. So hopefully that answers your question. And then there's, for example, the DISC assessment, which tests for example, dominance and influence and so forth. And it's another 4-part comprehensive framework. And it does the same thing. It tests for what is your dominant personality. Who else has something? Oh, look, I can show you this. This I can show you without breaking too much confidentiality. You see this where it says whole brain model? And it shows you, for example, over here, the rational self. This would be the controller. This would be the person that focuses on data. The safekeeping self is the person, the analyzer, the one that focuses on processes and making sure that things are working. Then you have the feeling self, and that's the person that focuses on relationships. This is the supporter. And the experimental self is the one that focuses on vision, the promoter, the possibility, and so forth. So there's a whole science around this in terms of what are the parts of your brain and what are the parts of your decision making that take the lead when you are being strategic and that take the lead when you're being in defensive mode. Very, very useful information. Ron, you have a question or something?
Yeah. Great interaction here. Do you think your profession influence, these characteristics? Because to a certain point, there is your innate way, but I think your profession sometimes modify you along the years. What's your take on that?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a chicken and the egg conversation. Which one came first, right? Your natural tendencies that would then inform what occupation you go to, or you go to an occupation and then that breeds a particular way of being about you. And I think it is reciprocal. I think it is a symbiotic relationship. You do have natural talents and natural tendencies that attract you to a particular line of work, and then that line of work amplifies certain pieces of your own personality that perhaps were dormant or perhaps were not as polished, et cetera, and you end up, if you do it, right, then you end up being a little bit more of yourself, just like the quote says, the privilege of a lifetime is the privilege of being who you are.
So in your study, have you somewhat, I guess, define which one of those characteristics tend to be better leaders, or be more successful? Is that something that
That's a great, I'm going to give you a question, an answer that perhaps you were not expecting. And I'm going to say that the people who are the best leaders are the ones that speak all of those languages. The ones that can switch from controller to promoter to, analyzer to supporter and so forth, because then that way you can see where somebody is going, speak their language in such a way that you can lead them, or that you can facilitate their growth, or that you can enroll them in a vision. So if you can speak all 4 languages, that's the making of a great leader.
Got it. All right.
Great question.
Great answer. And I guess it's I think I see what you meant.
Yeah.
It's definitely see what you
Because
meant.
with a controller, for example, if you go to a controller and you only talk people language, they're gonna think you're a wuss. If you go to a promoter and you go with analyzing processes, they're gonna be like, this is boring. Where's the vision in this, right? If you go to a supporter and you only go with facts, they're gonna think you're cold and calculating and manipulative. It's like, what about the people? It's all about the people, right?
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
you have to know how to speak all of those languages so that you can speak to their listening and get people enrolled in where we're going in that future pacing.
That makes
That's a
sense.
great question. Rashida, you had something?
Thank you so much for the topic this morning. And when you started the presentation and you say put the 4 corners, I was like, wow, she's gonna get there.
We're about to get taught something.
And I'm so happy that Ron asked the question. But what I would say is, I am R4. And it's funny because I think it was Monday, Carmen and I was speaking, and she said, oh, I would love to be like you. You can switch by a minute, and you so tough, and you so, I said, no, it's not tough. It's to know who and how to deal with that individual.
Mhm.
So I am R4. Definitely I'm R4 in any stage. If you in spiritual matters,
Yeah.
in business matter, in family matters, trust me, I belong to several clubs, and everybody said, "Call Rashida, she will fix the problem."
Oh, nice.
Rashida, she will fix. I said, "No, come on, you all need to help me."
Mhm.
Trust me. And people come to me and say, "Oh, Rashida, I'm having this problem, and how can I do it?" I say, if I was you, I'm not you, but if I was you, I would cope with it this way and get it done.
Yeah.
2 days later, they call me and say, it worked. So
Yeah.
yes, I'm R4.
4-4. That's awesome. Good stuff. Thank you, Rashida. Is that Cece over there?
Yes, this is
Yay! I
Cece.
knew who it was.
Thank you so much for the subject. Actually, it's it's inspiring me to be a whole lot more flexible and to adapt to all kinds of people, as well as
Right.
shift and pivot when I need to shift and pivot, and just be about being all 4 of those things at one time. And you just kind of like open my eyes again, because I kind of don't have to be rigid. Right. And I'm okay with it. Thank you for this topic. Excellent job.
Good stuff. I'm happy to do that. I think this is my first time in a Friday session, so it's a good follow-up from Thursday. Who else has something? Stan, you got something?
Yeah, I would like to say that, since it's not always obvious, and we may not really have the skills level yet, I know I don't, to ask the type of questions to really determine what type of person you're dealing with. If they don't obviously give you that a sense of them right away, maybe it's good to consider when you're interacting with anyone, to have a mix of every type of personality or every type of communication there.
That's right.
So that you touch on every one of those, all 4 of those.
Yep.
And then if you really focus on them and looking at them in the eye and paying attention, you might be able to get a better indication of which one they actually
You're
are.
absolutely correct. You're absolutely correct. And then see where they dwell, right? If somebody skips over the data stuff and goes over to the people stuff, that's a clue, right? That's a contextual clue. Or if they ask you even more deepening questions about something, then that means that they want to focus on something that is their dominant way of thinking. That's a great frame, Stan. That's awesome. All right, anybody else? Last call for alcohol. Questions, comments, vents, insights, downloads. This was great. I'm so happy that you guys were able to kind of dance with me on this one. Obviously, this could be like, you know, a whole weekend retreat, you know, teaching on this modules and this framework. And then exercises to not only get to know yourself better, but to practice conversations with different personality styles. So I thank you for playing with me, for being curious with me, and go out there and make it an amazing day. Remember to love, to laugh, to give of your talent, time, and energy, to stress less, sleep more, eat more plant-based, move your body, and of course, check yourself before you wreck yourself. Always audit your assumptions. Thank you, everybody, for being here with us at the Daily Huddle. See you next time.
Thank you, Doc.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Gracias.
Great topic.
One
Thank
love,
you.
guys. One love.
Thank you. Great topic.
Good stuff. Very stimulating.
Great
Take care.
topic.
Yeah.